Good evening. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Cutter Martin here with a check of the First Alert forecast. A lot to talk about tonight. We just wrapped up Atlanta News First at 7 p.m. Maybe you're joining us from that newscast streaming on Atlanta News First Plus. Here we have a closer look at the First Alert forecast, and on this platform, we can chat. I can offer some clarification if you have specific questions about specific aspects of the forecast in specific parts of North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. I can give you the latest, and we can simply have a conversation regarding the weather. Of course, on television, you don't necessarily get that. It's kind of more of a one-way conversation. So with all that said, here's how this goes. If this is your first time ever tuning in, streaming Atlanta News First Plus or First Alert Weather Plus on Atlanta News First Plus. Here to give you the update. Ask your questions on YouTube. That's one place that we're streaming right now that I'm taking a look at questions coming in right now. We don't have any. We have some folks viewing, though. And then also, you can text us, 470-777-9263. Again, I'm going to go ahead and pop that up on the screen here for you. 470-777-9263 or WANF. If you text that number, I'll see your text come in, and I'll be able to answer your question. And again, as a reminder, as weather goes downhill, if you can safely do so, for example, if we get branches down in your yard, or, hopefully not, but if a tree falls in your neighborhood, you can send us a photo and a video, and you may see that photo or video show up on Atlanta News First or right here on Atlanta News First Plus. You can submit that photo in the First Alert Weather app or just by texting it to the same number you see on your screen. And if at any time you need to check the forecast, even if it's not during First Alert Weather Plus, you can simply just text weather to 470-777-9263. Again, that is 470-777-WANF. And you may see that on air. All right, let's go ahead and get to the First Alert forecast. Again, if you're just tuning in, I'm First Alert Meteorologist Cutter Martin. I want to thank you for tuning in and for watching this stream. A lot to talk about, especially in regards to storms moving through overnight tonight. That's the big deal here. Gusty winds. It's already getting gusty outside. Winds gusting 30 to 40. Wind advisory already in effect. And high wind warning for our north central Georgia mountain communities, far north Georgia. That went into effect here about 33 minutes ago. So a lot to track. We have the wind preceding the storms, and then more wind as the rain and storms move through, and then more wind and cold behind that as we get into the day tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. This is kind of a longer duration event when it comes to the gusty winds, but a very short time frame that we're watching for severe storms to move through and the risk of severe wind gusts, 58 miles per hour or stronger, and the risk of isolated tornadoes. Those are, the risk of those are going to be relatively low, but still certainly not zero, and we probably will have some severe weather conditions move through North Georgia and Metro Atlanta overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Not everyone sees the severe stuff. Everyone gets some wind and some rain, no doubt about that, but everyone will be seeing, gusty winds and the rain. The severe condition, that's a wind gust 58 miles per hour or stronger, or a tornado or hail the size of a quarter or bigger, the risk of those impacts are lesser, but still there, which is why you need to have alerts turned on in your First Alert Weather app overnight tonight. Maybe asking, where are storms right now? They're still about, 200 and 225. In fact, we can measure it for you. This was from earlier, 280 miles to the west of North Georgia. Storms are moving very, very quickly. Again, the leading edge of the heaviest of the rain is now much closer than even when I drew that map, 2 hours ago. So we're seeing this line of storms move at a very quick clip. That's a good thing and a bad thing. It's not going to stick around too long. That's the good news. The bad news is sometimes when a line of heavy rain, of thunderstorms capable of producing gusty winds is moving fast, that only adds to the kind of forward momentum and the ability for winds to really gust, down to the surface. So we're looking at now the heaviest of the rain, less than 200 miles to the west and southwest of the city of Atlanta, moving very quickly, 50, 60 miles an hour as an average. So we're talking about likely before midnight, we're going to start getting some raindrops here in the city of Atlanta, and certainly Cleburne and Randolph counties in Alabama, far western portions of the area. The risk of heavy rain will ramp up after 10, maybe 11 p.m. Won't even have to wait until midnight. We do have a question in from Jesus Ramirez. What are the impacts for Cobb County, Marietta? No changes from when we spoke in yesterday or the day before, Jesus. So that's great. We love consistency in the forecast. We wish it was, for the better and that conditions were improving, but a pretty safe bet. You're going to have a gusty line of downpours moving through Cobb County, all of North Georgia, Metro Atlanta overnight tonight into the wee hours of tomorrow morning. Latest from the Storm Prediction Center that we should get a final, little blurb, little update from the Storm Prediction Center here this evening. There is a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather, marginal risk for all of North Georgia. That's the green. In yellow, level 2 out of 5, slight risk of severe weather across far western portions of the metro, from far southern Chattooga County, much of Floyd County, on down into Cleveland, Randolph counties, Carroll County, Troup County, Heard County, western Coweta County, Meriwether County, on down towards Columbus. Now, just because you're a mile east into the green and you're not in the yellow doesn't mean your risk is appreciably or significantly lower. At the end of the day, the team of meteorologists and forecasters that had to draw this map, we kind of speak in generalities here. Just because you live in Carrollton doesn't mean you're guaranteed to severe weather, and just because you live in Atlanta doesn't mean that you won't see anything severe, just because the risk is lower or lesser. But in general, the further west you go, the further southwest you go, these areas have a greater risk than the city of Atlanta of seeing severe weather, and certainly a greater risk of seeing severe weather than our north and northeast Georgia mountain communities, as far as thunderstorm damaging wind gusts and tornadoes and hail and things like that are concerned. Hey Zeus, what time is it going to start raining in Cobb County, Marietta? That's a good question and a perfect segue here. We can go ahead and pull up our first alert forecast, and if you ever wonder what I'm doing when I'm scrolling and looking down, we kind of like a group of computers here, and we have hundreds of weather graphics able to help tell our weather story, give you the latest information, and even though we're out here at the desk, not in the weather center, we can see the updates for ourselves without having to go back into the weather center. We can keep talking, keep chatting, and pass along the updates as quickly as possible. So, hey Zeus, to answer your question, what time is it going to start raining in Cobb County? Let's roll our clock back. This new forecast model data, much like earlier, rain and some embedded thunderstorms approaching the state line, Cleveland and Randolph counties in Alabama, as early as 9, 10 o'clock in the evening. I would say more, maybe 10, 11. So it's already raining as I bring this clock back at 10:30, 11 p.m. in Cleveland and Randolph counties. Now, just because it's raining doesn't mean that's when your greatest risk of severe weather will arrive. With how this line is, structured and looking at the setup, I think it's going to start raining just about everywhere before the heaviest of the rain, before the gustiest of the winds and the noisiest of the storms actually arrive. So, passing this forward in time, rain probably already starting to fall, Jesus, in Marietta and Cobb County at midnight. Same could be said for South Fulton, Coweta County, Troup County, Heard County, possibly as early as 11 p.m., some of these state line counties and communities. And as far as the core of the city of Atlanta, rain is starting midnight to 1 a.m. Keep in mind, though, again, I'm going to pause this for you and circle what's going on here as we bring our clock back just a little bit further. Again, pausing this at 1 o'clock in the morning. Notice how in Atlanta, it is already raining. We already have rain falling. However, that is not the worst of the weather. The worst of the weather, according to this run of this forecast model, and I think it has the right idea here, is still back to the west along this line, stretching all the way from the Tennessee state line down through Carrollton, LaGrange, and well beyond that, all the way down to the Florida Peninsula. It's that line that's going to bring the briefly intense rain and the greatest risk of intense and damaging wind gusts to North Georgia and Metro Atlanta, even though the rain starts an hour, maybe 2 hours ahead of the worst of the weather. And technically, we have trees outside of the Atlanta News First newsroom, and it's a little dark outside, so hard to see much movement on them. But winds were gusting greater than 30 miles per hour, starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. And just to say, all that to say, I should say, is that winds are already blowing out there. It's already gusty. In fact, I do want to remind you that we do have both a wind advisory and a high wind warning in effect for different parts of North Georgia. Everyone is under a wind alert, no matter where you are watching from, streaming in the Atlanta News First viewing area. If your TV picks up our signal, you're in our viewing area, and you're under one of 2 wind alerts. In that tan shading, wind advisory, wind gusts 35 to 45 miles an hour. Peak gust last check at the airport Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, about 33 miles an hour. That was a little earlier. Winds will ramp up more this evening and overnight tonight, though, and then get windy again tomorrow afternoon after a brief little lull. So wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour. Wind advisory is in effect until 7 p.m. Wednesday evening. So about 24 hours or so left of that wind advisory. High wind warning for higher elevation communities from, near Clay County, North Carolina, though technically they are left out. And then over to the west, Fannin County, down into Dawson County, Pickens County, Gilmer County, and then on into, Dade County, far northwest Georgia, heading into the Chattanooga area. High wind warning is in effect and will remain in effect until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And likely, even after 7 a.m., they might let the high wind warning expire, but they will let all of those counties remain under a wind advisory that everyone else is under until about, 7 o'clock Wednesday evening. But in that orange-shaded area, wind gusts 45 to 55 miles an hour possibility. That's enough to cause power outages, bring down trees. We could even have some issues, 35 to 45 mile an hour wind gusts. Atlanta, North Georgia, doesn't take all that much to bring down limbs, cause at least spotty hit or miss power outages. And unfortunately, it doesn't take all that much to bring down a couple trees. These winds are not associated with storms. This is just the fact that we have a very strong, intense area of low pressure to our north, what we call gradient winds, basically what causes wind, difference in pressure. So the fact that we have an extremely low area of pressure to our north and west, nature wants to stabilize that, get everything equal, and kind of back to an equilibrium. And in that case, how it does that or attempts to do that is by blowing, wind from an area of higher pressure to an area of lower pressure. And that's just how nature works. So we're looking at a pretty windy setup here. In addition to the severe wind gusts, 58 miles per hour or stronger, that we could see with some severe thunderstorms, downpours moving through the metro and all of North Georgia this evening. Because of the fact that we're dealing with such gusty winds, and also the risk of, severe wind gusts, beyond just gusty here, the power could go out. And there could be severe weather moving through, and the power could go out before the storm even gets to your neighborhood. So you always want to stay in touch with the First Alert forecast. First Alert weather app is a great way to still get alerts in a worst-case scenario and still get forecast updates. And it's a free and easy download. Make sure your devices are charged before you hit the head to bed tonight. Again, to be alerted, if, worst-case scenario here, a tornado warning is issued for your area, make sure that the location settings are correct in your app. I just have my First Alert weather app set to follow me. In fact, just to show you, I can go ahead and pull it up. You can either choose, a steady or static location, just Atlanta, for example, if you live in Atlanta, or you can just choose follow me. So if you have to run errands or run to another side of town, or if you have a trip planned, or this is another day and you're going on vacation, it will just follow you and know where you are and know which alerts pertain to you based on your location. So again, on location, I just have it at follow me. And of course, Atlanta News First is in West Midtown, 14th and McCaslin. So it's registering an Atlanta address. But that location is very important. You need to make sure it's correct. In the settings menu, make sure you have your tornado warnings turned on. That's the most dangerous, of course, of warning to take heed of. All you have to do is go to settings, weather notification types. And there are many, many, many options. You can customize it to alert you to absolutely everything possible, or to only interrupt you or alert you to the most serious of warnings and dangerous weather conditions. So very customizable. If you want video updates from the team, the forecast updates, little nuggets with extra information, kind of like a stream like this one, just search Atlanta News First in the First Alert weather app, or in your app or Google Play Store, I should say. Download the First Alert weather app, and then just make sure your Atlanta News First Alerts are turned on, a little green toggle in the settings menu, and that way you'll be given, video forecast updates with additional context to the forecast. Any adjustments, we'll pass those along before, and potentially before you're even able to see it on social media, Facebook, or on TV or anything like that. But the big risk tonight is going to be damaging wind gusts 60 to 70 miles an hour with a couple of these storms. Again, greatest risk southwest of Atlanta. Everyone's going to get gusty, and everyone's going to have a period of very heavy rain overnight tonight. Could easily wake you up, wake the pups up. Even if there's not that much lightning and thunder, could wake you up overnight tonight. So be aware. If your little kiddos are scared of thunder, scared of storms at night, or your pups are scared of storms, they don't do well, tonight could be an issue. Reggio saying beneficial moisture. That is absolutely true. That is the best aspect of this First Alert forecast. Rain. We need the rain. We've been talking about wildfires, and that is the good part. Rain is a good thing. Just wish it wasn't coming with the risk of severe weather. Hey, Zeus Ramirez asking when we could see severe weather again. In the First Alert 7-day forecast, there is no risk of severe weather locally. Showers this weekend, Saturday, Sunday. But the following week, we could have another round of thunderstorms. Again, plenty of time to watch it, and could still be some fluctuations in that First Alert forecast. So a lot to watch, but at the same time, no additional risk of severe weather at this time. But I want to make sure that you're staying alert, staying aware to the fact that the weather's going to go downhill this evening. Winds are already gusting, and they're only going to get gustier. Winds are only going to get stronger, and the risk of severe weather is in the forecast. Everyone may see nasty weather. Doesn't mean everyone's going to see severe weather, but we want you to be alert to the possibility there could be a quick spin-up tornado overnight tonight, and everyone's going to be dealing with some gusty winds and at least a brief period of heavy rain. Power outages a possibility, limbs coming down. Hopefully not as significant of a wind event as what we had just a couple of weekends ago, knocking out power to so many, trees down, limbs down, unfortunately hurting some folks, one person losing their life here in the city of Atlanta. Not looking like it's going to be to that extent, but I will say there very well could be wind issues related to storms moving through North Georgia and Metro Atlanta overnight tonight, and there very easily, could be a few tornadoes, couple of tornadoes in our region, and the risk of severe weather tornado-wise here locally in our area is going to be greatest west and southwest of Metro Atlanta. The risk is not all that high, but even with the low risk, it's worthy of attention, and you want to make sure that you have at least one way to be alerted just in case that small chance does verify in your neighborhood if a tornado quickly spins up and comes through. Hey, Zeus is asking, what about YouTube? Are you going to be live again tonight? We will be live. If there's severe weather, we'll be live on YouTube, and we will continue to monitor the forecast, keep you updated. Hey, Zeus, do you have the First Alert Weather app? We will continue to update the First Alert Weather app, and as the situation evolves, we'll also be putting updates across platforms, including right here on YouTube on Atlanta News First Plus. Talking First Alert Weather, it'll be First Alert Meteorologist Patrick Pete and First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez, tracking rain and some storms as they move back through North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. Kind of the second round of storms and the risk of severe weather, and it basically is many weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So a lot to talk about this evening, overnight, tonight. I'm going to hop off here. We're going to continue to keep you updated at AtlantaNewsFirst.com, First Alert Weather app. Streams like this one on Atlanta News First. Next newscast slated for 10 p.m. Just as some of these storms start getting close to our westernmost counties in eastern Alabama. That'll be with First Alert Meteorologist Patrick Pete at 10 p.m. on Peachtree TV at Atlanta's CW. And then joined by First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez coming up this evening at 11 p.m. back on WANF. So plenty of options to stay alert to the forecast. Here's a shaky camera for you here in West Midtown, shaking just a bit as some of those gusty winds really begin to set in. It will get windy tonight. Storms and heavy rain will move through tonight. And then tomorrow, drier forecast, colder weather filtering back in as the winds continue to blow. Again, we'll continue to keep you updated right here. Stay with the First Alert Weather team as storms move through tonight and early tomorrow morning.